Welcome to Mario Zna podcast. Today we are speaking with Reverend Džim Doson, a leader of Knights Templar. We're going to talk about everything that is happening in the world, and especially in Europe and United Kingdom. And this is our continent. We are fighting for it. We are fighting for us to be free and to live normally, but it's hard sometimes. Yeah, we're going to cover a lot of topics, especially when it comes to Islamization of Europe, when it comes to the population, and when it comes to God. This is starting to look like a struggle, like a holy struggle. It seems like this life that we are living right now in 2025, I can find it in the Bible. Somewhere it says that this is looking like the last days, but we're going to talk to Reverend, and he's going to tell us everything. Reverend Džim Doson, welcome to Mario Zna podcast. God bless you.
God bless you, and thank you for having me on. Now, I must correct you, I'm not the leader of the Knights Templar. The Council of Nine runs a Knights Templar, but I am one of the leaders here in the UK.
For beginning, like, you are the first connection to the outside world when it comes to Knights Templar and Knights Templar International. Like, you are the one who is representing it right now, basically.
It's because I'm stupid. Because when you're the front guy, you're the target. But because I've been involved in sort of high-level politics and aggravation and activism for many years, it doesn't really bother me. But if you expose some of your other men, we've got some very clever men, eminent men, churchmen, they would be absolutely annihilated by the media, by the police, and by the left-wing people, by the Antifa. So, if they see my face, that's okay. They can attack me all they want. I don't care. I'll get thick skin.
Okay. Thanks for accepting my invitation, Reverend. First question for you is, because the whole world is watching what is happening in United Kingdom. Can you please let us know and explain, bring us closer to the situation in United Kingdom?
Well, for many, many years we've been engulfed by migrants, and a lot of it was our own fault because we allowed all the people who used to be in our empire to come here after the Second World War because we needed people. Now, we should have let them in with a work permit. Come here for 5 years, work, we pay you, they treat you very nice, and then go home. But no, we didn't do that. And then in the last 20 years, we've had all the Syrians and the Pakistanis, the Afghanis, the Bangladeshis, and nobody's done anything about it. There's several reasons for it. One of the main reasons in the West is demographics. Sadly, we're in a demographic tsunami, which is now striking. I've been warning about it for 30 years, and people used to laugh at me. But now the governments understand, the bankers understand, the big corporations understand that we are dying and Britain's population could halve in the next 25 years. So therefore, and Germany and France and Belgium and Sweden and Serbia. So these people understand this. So now they know, okay, these white guys are dying. We need to bring more people in because all they're interested in is consumers. Consumers. We need more consumers because nobody makes anything anymore. They just need consumers. And that's what's going on. And it's causing huge problems, but there's uprisings. The people are beginning to rise. I live in Northern Ireland, as you know. A few weeks, let me just explain something to you, brother. Over the last 20 years, there's been 1 million. This is Amnesty International said this. They're not a right-wing group, as you know. They said 1 million white English girls have been groomed and gang raped by mainly Pakistani grooming gangs. 1 million. And not one single Englishman lifted a fist. None. Now, 2 months ago here in Northern Ireland, some immigrants touched a couple of our young girls in a town called Ballymena. We had 3 days of rioting. All the foreigners were burned out of their houses, systematically went door to door, kicking them all out, and thousands of them had to flee across this country. And now the English have seen this and thought, and now the English are starting to put flags up the lampposts, which we do in Northern Ireland. They're beginning to paint their national colours on the roads, which we do in Northern Ireland. I know you do in Serbia as well. So the English now, people are saying the English are becoming Ulsterised, and they're now beginning to tribalise. I'm a Scotsman. We're tribal. The Irish are tribal people. The English are not a tribal people. They're Germanic. They're not tribal. But the English now are becoming tribal, and I think we're seeing the very beginnings of a similar situation that happened in Northern Ireland in 1969. This is about a couple of years beforehand. And it started with the flags, it started with tribalisation, and it ended in a bloody and horrible civil war. It also happened in Serbia, Kosovo, Bosnia and Herzegovina. So that's where we're going. And people would say, well, this is terrible. We should stop doing this. Look, we cannot stop the inevitable. War is coming. The English are now beginning to find their courage. They're beginning to find their old fighting British spirit again. I salute them. War is coming. There will be war. At the moment, it's the Pakistanis and the Muslims beating us up, beating our people up, and never had a retaliation. Now the tribes are beginning to rise. And what's going to happen is going to happen. It's not our people's fault. It's the government's fault. It's the EU's fault. And it's the politicians who have allowed this to happen. Our people are merely defending themselves, and I will stand by them. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Because I wanted to ask you, will the rallies and protests help fight off what is happening in London, where you have, or in Brighton, where you have Mujahideen leaders in administration, the British administration? You have top administrators. You have women covered in hijabs or burqa.
Yeah. Or they've got green hair and they're lesbians. No, none of these things will really help. I mean, the other big problem we've got in this country is the Zionist movement has spent huge amounts of money. I mean, they came to me several years ago and offered me £300,000. And I said, well, what do I need to do to earn this money? £300,000 is a lot of money. And it was an MP from Denmark that came and made me this offer. He said, well, you have to be supportive of Israel. Okay. And you cannot really attack LGBTQ+. Strange that. And you cannot really attack abortion. I said, well, you know, I can't take the money because I would be rendered a mute. I wouldn't be able to speak about it because that's all I speak about. And they went away. But most, and I say this in all seriousness, and I hope your viewers pay attention. Almost every single British patriot that you see on Twitter, nearly every single one of them, is paid by some or other American neocon group or Zionist group. That's Tommy Robinson, Britain First, all of these big posters you see on Twitter, they're all paid for. They're not nationalists at all. They are merely to whip up hatred against Muslims. Now, Muslims are a problem and I don't like them. But if every Muslim left Britain tomorrow, you still have abortion. You still have the LGBTQ+ lobby. You still have the crazy trans people. You still have the hideous Marxist politicians. You still have the greedy bankers and capitalist pigs that are destroying our country with their greed. All of this is still here. The depopulation's still here. In fact, worse than all of that's still here. But it's all about getting people in the West to hate Islam. Like the ADF in Germany, the same. They're paid. Geert Wilders, paid. All of these people are doing that. Because if you hate Islam, by default, you will support Israel and whatever Israel do in the Middle East. And it sounds very simplistic, but that's the case. That is what it's all about. And I'm not a Zionist. I'm not pro-Palestinian either. But I do think what's going on in Gaza is disgraceful and it should be stopped. But that's the name of the game here. The name of the game is to get us to hate Islam. Now, remember, people like Tommy Robinson is on record. You Google him, you'll find it. He is pro-multiculturalism. He's pro-race mixing. He is pro-LGBTQ+. He doesn't like trans, but he's pro-gays. He said transvestites speaking at his rallies. He said raging homosexuals speaking at his rallies. He said homosexuals speaking at his rallies who are married to black men. Men married to black men. I mean, so this is the big problem we have here. This is the big problem. We don't have a real right wing. Now, on Saturday coming, Tommy Robinson's running a rally in London. I'll say there'll be about 200,000 people at it. It'll be the biggest right-wing rally in England, not here. In Northern Ireland, we've had 500,000 people, 45% of the entire population. But he'll have a huge rally. But people are very naive, especially English people, because they've not had war. In Ireland, we've had war. We never have anything other than war. We've had a 20-year break, but that'll get back. But the English have never had war on their home turf. So they honestly believe that if they go to these rallies and wave their flags and sing Rule Britannia, it'll be fine. But they will go to the rally next week. There'll be 200,000 people there. Everybody will be feeling, tough and hard and buoyant. They'll wake up on Sunday morning. Nothing's changed, brother. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, that's the problem. Not only in UK but around the world, you always have some people who are walking you around. Like you're just going to have to buy new shoes, next month because you're going to run out. Yeah. So it's happening. It's happening all around the world. This kind of protests and but when people see what is going on in UK. Maybe this can be used as a trigger for something much bigger.
Yes, I mean the police said just last week. Now I live in Northern Ireland. I don't know if you've been here, but I live in a village here, a small village, 5,000 people. We have 5 different militias here. 5 militias in this little town. We have a militia hall. All the men meet. Every single man's in it. We all meet. We march about. We drill. We train. And there's illegal weapons here and all this. So if we don't want the police to police our village, we don't let them. So we're in control here. And every single flagpost, every single lamppost, every single one, hundreds of them all around this area, have flags up them for 9 months of the year. Then we take them down and put them back up again next year. And the English have started doing this. And the police chief said just last week, the English do not do this. The English do not fly the flag. But last week, over 1 million flags were put up by patriots, climbing lampposts in the middle of the cities and towns, and the left wing are trying to take them down and putting them back up. This is unprecedented. This is the Overton window has absolutely shifted. I never ever thought this would happen. Now, when we were fighting the IRA and the bombs were going off in England, and English people were getting blown up, and thousands of my people in Ulster were dying, the English didn't do a thing. They didn't fly flags. They didn't protest. But now something psychological has happened. Something's changed. Something's deeply changed. And now 1 million flags going up in a week doesn't sound that exciting, but I know the English. This is unprecedented. It really is. And where the Germans are going down the route of politics, AFD, so on and so forth, I don't think the English are going to do this. Yes, Reform will win the next election, hopefully, if the Zionists don't trip them up, but they're trying to, through Tommy Robinson and Ben Habib. But the English, I think, are going more militant. And we often, especially, I know you're Serbian, but a lot of Europeans have the attitude or the opinion or the mindset that the English are a very genteel and polite nation. Well, let me tell you, in the 18th century, a famous travel writer, one of the first travel writers ever, he was a Frenchman, and he came and toured England. And people said to him, "What is an Englishman?" He said, "It's hard to describe. But if you take a Barbary ape and a pirate and mix them with alcohol, you have an Englishman." They're a very brutal, barbaric people when they eventually, rise up. And I really do think, brother, we are this close to gigantic disorder breaking out in England. I think the English have had enough, and that's the end of it. I think.
Yes, I hear you, Reverend. I had some close encounters with Chelsea headhunters, hooligans. When I was so
Charlie and all the boys. I know some of them boys. Yes, see, Combat 18 and all them boys. I know them well. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. They're not very polite, and they don't wear bowler hats.
Yeah, and this is what we have similar when it comes to Serbia and United Kingdom. We are both. When you mix us with alcohol and football, for example, you get war, and we are the same there.
I've been there. I've been to Belgrade. I was in the. I can't remember the 2 teams in Belgrade. I can't remember if it was Red Star or Dynamo.
Yeah. Red Star and Partizan. Yeah.
Partizan. One of them have got a gun club underneath the stadium.
Yeah.
And I was in that gun club with these big bald guys, big huge Serbian guys. I thought, oh my goodness. And we're firing the guns, and the young girls are coming in on a Friday night before they go out. And they're firing guns as well, young, pretty girls firing guns. And I thought, this is a fantastic country. I like this. But yeah, the Serbs are a very formidable people. I've spent a lot of time in Serbia.
We are going to come to the topic of Serbia, but there is a lot of people who know about your history and how much you helped Serbs and try to help Serbs in Kosovo and Metohija, but there is still a lot of people who didn't hear anything because of the media blockage that is happening all around the world, same in Serbia. But before that, you had a good point. You said one really good thing that made me think a lot right now listening to you, and I'm thinking, we can we can do the Islamization, send them home, deport them. But what happens when you have LGBTQ plus dogs and cats walking around the streets? Who's going to fix that? Who can fix that besides God? Besides God, I think that no.
I agree. Listen, I went to a few years ago before I took this thing. I went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a real tough steel town. Many Scots people went there, Irish people went there. It was a very tough town, steel town, Pittsburgh, PA, and it was bizarre because there was the worldwide convention. I don't know if you know this name, furries. There was a worldwide convention of the furries. Do you know what a furry is, brother? This is when adults they dress up as squirrels and as cats and dogs and rabbits. And there were 60,000 of them marching through the streets. And I thought, good grief, the West is totally gone. Who are these people? Why are they on the streets? And what do we do to get rid of them? And you know, the hotel workers went on strike. The hotel workers, the black people working in hotels went on strike because these people who were booked into this big march and conference, they were defecating in trays on the floor like cats and like dogs. And the black hotel workers said, we ain't cleaning this up. This is no good. So, okay, all the Muslims go home. Okay, what do we do with these furries? What do we do with these trans people? What do we do with these LGBTQ? What do we do with these paedophiles who are now almost legal? I think they're legal in Holland and Belgium. What do we do with all these crazy people? What happens?
That was the question because not maybe, but for sure, as someone who is religious and I do believe in afterlife, in heaven or in hell. It depends on my material life here on the ground, on the earth. But is there maybe, did you notice maybe a rise up when it comes, like a positive rise up when it comes to new members?
Yeah,
of
absolutely. There's something. I mean, I've been in ministry for many years. Most of our churches in Britain are horrible because you have the established church, the Church of England, and a lot of people don't understand that you have different churches in this country. You have the Church of Wales, official Church of Wales, is Presbyterian. You have the Church of Scotland, which is Presbyterian. You have the Church of Ireland, which is Anglican. And you have the Church of England, Anglican. The Anglican churches, the head of their churches is the King. The head of our churches is Jesus Christ. But over the last 10 years, I see a big upsurge, especially in the last 2 years, of many young men now going towards orthodoxy. Quite incredible. They're going towards orthodoxy because there is no hardline Protestant churches. Well, there are, but there's not many of them. So many of our young people are going to orthodoxy. But the English, Northern Europeans don't really suit Catholicism or orthodoxy. Most Northern Europeans, like Germans and Swedes and Danes and Scots people like myself, we are more aesthetics, so we're more drawn towards hardcore Protestant things like Calvinism. But there's very few good Calvinist churches. So many young people now are going towards orthodoxy. And I say, well, look, if it works for you, do it, because the Orthodox Church is quite strong. It's not perfect. Nothing is. But there is a big uptake. I mean, I was telling you before we come on, this week we have brought in more church members in a week than we brought in last year.
Mm-hmm. This is what... Yeah. I was interested in that information because I know that people are searching for the answer, and when they cannot find it on the street by walking around kilometers and protesting for nothing.
Waving flags.
Yeah, waving flags. They can find the salvation. They can find a true voice inside of the church, inside of the religion, inside of Christianity. Like, let's put it that way. But also, I have noticed. I have saw yesterday a video of young Britons, white Britons, who are converted to Islam, and they became Wahhabis. So
yeah, I mean, I was in London at the weekend, and I was at a big pro-life rally. It was 10,000 days in Westminster, but there was also 2 Palestinian marches. One of them was the illegal march where the police arrested 900 Palestinian protesters. But we were in amongst them. We were actually in amongst them, and there was a lot of very decent, nice young Catholics there. But they're all sort of. This is the problem with Christianity. A lot of these boys who were there on the march with us, they were like incels, you know, the nice chinos, the nice blazer, the nice tie, or the dicky bow. And when the Reds came, we ended up in amongst them. There was basically me and Jada Franson, who's a woman, but she's a very fierce woman. Me and her were in amongst them, and we were mixing up with these people because, I might wear this collar, but I am a fighting Christian, and we are told to fight. This carry on about turning the other cheek. It doesn't mean be a pacifist. It means even if you get punched in the face, still go forward, still proclaim the truth, never buckle down to these people. But too many Christians are meek and weaselly, and they're not strong. I'm only a small guy. But I grew up in a very tough neighbourhood, and if you didn't stand up for yourself, especially being small and wearing glasses, you're just going to be bullied all your life. So it's important that Christians become tough guys. I don't mean bullies, but men, proper men that can look after their women, can look after their country. And this is why young men now in this country, there's far more young women can convert into Islam than men, but I'll tell you about this. So the young men are looking for something that's strong, something that gives you a sense of identity and tribal, and it's tough. It's tough. People are tough. So they go towards Wahhabism because these guys, every mosque has got a boxing gym. They're tough guys. They'll fight with you. And the women, much more women in Britain are going towards Islam because what does a woman really look for? I don't mean these women who are sort of partially brainwashed by the modern feminist agenda, but inside their heart, you can change the brain for a while. You cannot change the heart, my friend, because God gave us the heart. So women looking, their brain might be telling them, I want a nice, soft, gentle guy, but their heart is telling them they want a man. And they look at these big, buffed up, hairy Muslims who are devout, who are strong in their religion. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't do this, they don't do this. And they go towards them. It's the same way they go towards a lot of black guys, because a lot of black guys are very tough and very manly. And sadly, a lot of your English guys, they're either very effeminate, British guys, they're either very effeminate, or the ones who are a bit tough are like hooligans. They're foul-mouthed, they're loud, they've no respect for women or children. They're just not very honourable men. So we need to be tough, we need to be honourable, and more than anything else, we need to have faith in God. Because women are attracted to men with faith. And if you're watching this, young guys, remember that. Women really like men with faith. So get yourself to church and get a woman.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to ask you, what would you do in the situation where you would maybe meet these young people who want to switch to Islam, who are searching for some strength? What would you tell them?
I'll tell them they're going to burn in hell because, you're following a demon. Allah is a demon god. I know Allah in the Arabic word is the name for God, but this is not the same God, okay? This is not the same. This is not the same God. There is one true God and his son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. Amen, forevermore. Allah is a demon. Allah is a demon from the sands of Arabia. This is a demon you're worshipping, and that will take you to hell. So you must come away from it. And it's not just that, it's alien also to your culture. It doesn't belong here. It's not the faith of your fathers. It's not of your ancestors. It's got nothing to do with us. Keep away from it. And they do this because I would also tell them, look, in the next few years, there's going to be a war between us, loosely termed, and them. What about your heritage? What about your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, going back into the times of 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years ago? Because the British people haven't really moved about. We've been here. I know Serbia, people come, people go. But Britain, we've been roughly here since the ice sheets were treated. We've been here, just us. And what about all those people? What about your bloodline? And you're going to throw all that away and fight with the invaders against your own blood? No. You must not do this. And if you do this, not only are you an apostate, but you're a traitor and you're a disgrace to the memory of your blood. And that's what I do tell them. I meet people who do that, and I tell them this. There is no redemption when you've done this, when apostatized and joined Islam. There's no redemption for that. You're finished. You're done, and you need to just don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, this is the part. This is what you said early when it comes to feminism. That the men are a bit feminine. In the northern part of Europe, maybe it's because of the fact that there was no war since the World War II, and for example, you're coming from a country where you lived through war. I'm coming from a country where we also lived through wars, and maybe that made us different. You know,
Yeah.
those kids were like, they had everything during their growing up. You know, here, you know, you didn't know if you're going to survive till tomorrow. So I come to the point. I come to the point that sometimes maybe war is not so bad.
Yeah, listen, this is the longest, this is incredible. This is the longest Britain has ever been at peace in 1,000 years. 1,000 years, never been at peace. Now, I live in Ireland and I'm Scotch-Irish. My grandparents were burned out of the south of Ireland when the country split in 1922. My family and my wife's family, her grandparents and my grandparents were all burned out of their homes and chased by the Roman Catholics. And we went to Scotland, but the first opportunity, we've come back to our homeland. So and then we had the slaughters of 1798 with the pogroms of 1641. You know, we've never been at peace in Northern Ireland, so we don't know anything else. And Scotland is a very tribal nation, and most of us served in the British Army. So we're very warlike people, even if we haven't had a war in Scotland for a long time. You know, about 40% of all the young men used to serve in the British Army. So we're warlike people. But there's too many people in Britain who, especially when you go down south, who don't live in rough towns. The towns are very genteel. They have very genteel lives. And this is generational. This is for, you know, since forever. And they've never had any contact with war because the last war was 80 years ago. So we now have 3 or 4 generations with no contact to death, suffering, worrying. As you say, when we used to live here in Belfast, we could hear the bombs going off. And maybe your friends were down in the town, or I was down in the town. My wife could hear the bombs going off and thinking, is he dead? Is he not dead? When you live with that type of thing, well, a couple of things happen. You realise God is real. There's no atheists in a trench. You realise God is real. You realise you need God. But you also realise how sweet and precious life is and how important personal relationships are and how much you love your own people. Because the problem with the English is they're very individualistic, like the Germans, very individualistic. But if I was watching the news and I seen in the news that a farmer on the other side of Ulster shot dead by IRA, tending his cows, I would be in tears. And then I would be filled with an outrageous anger and thirst for vengeance to attack those who were attacking my people. I don't know that man. Never knew his name, never knew his family, knew none about him. But I knew this. He was one of my blood. He was one of my tribe. And somebody's attacking my tribe, so I have to retaliate. And they've never had this in Northern Europe for 80 years. And this is what softened our men. So you're right. War is a terrible thing. War is awful, as you know. But men are programmed to face danger in their life. And if they don't face danger, they rot. They rot. And our men are rotten from the inside out. It's nobody doing it to them. They're rotten from the inside out. And that's a big issue.
Yes, when they give you, when the system gives you everything, that you have everything, that you don't need to worry about anything. I just can't imagine a life without worrying. You know, when I was a kid, you know, when I was younger, they offered me some kind of program in university, offered me traveling to go and live in Norway for 1 year, and I said, oh no, man, like they have everything there, like send me to Slovakia, for example. Okay, I will go to Slovakia, but I don't want to go somewhere where people are. For me, they look lost. For me, they look lost, and I think that I will have panic attack if I woke up in Serbia where I don't have any problems.
Well, you know, we used to have a headquarters in Budapest, and we had the headquarters in Stara Dušana in Beograd, and we used to sit sometimes on the buses or on the trams in both cities, and we would play a game. Me and Mr. Griffin would play a game, see if we could spot the tourists. Now, there wasn't a lot of tourists then in Serbia, but in Budapest there was. And we could tell the Western young guys, we could tell them a mile away, because they looked like women, and they behaved like women, cackling, and being silly. But you see the young Hungarian guys, they were like, you know, a bit mean. Then you went to Serbia. The Serbian guys are like, they're quite scary, actually. A lot of Serbian guys are like, what do you say? You know. And I used to go to some of these cabanas, and it was wonderful. You get in the cabanas. It's the exact same culture as Northern Ireland, and you paint the walls as well like Northern Ireland. But all the girls go over that side of the hall. All the men are over that side of the hall. People are not playing stupid Negro American pop music. They're playing songs of Kosovo and songs of what do you call this? Dešani monastery, the famous
Dečani, monastery, Dečani,
Lazo, and all that stuff. And the tears are running down people's faces at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're drinking and they're singing their patriotic song, and there's tears coming down their faces. And I thought, this is the exact same as Belfast. We are the exact same. But the guys are tough. The women look like women. They're very pretty, the Serbian women, my goodness. They're very pretty, but very reserved. Don't mess with them, don't go near them. They've got clothes on. They're not all naked. And the young guys look like men. They look like young guys. You don't want to mess with them. And the West, we've lost this because there's nothing to worry about. And if you've got nothing, I can tell you a quick one. When we had the troubles here in Northern Ireland, our suicide rate was half the average of Europe. Now we have peace. Our suicide rate is the same as everybody else's. So, people would think, well, if you're living through a war, you might be suicidal. It's not the case because you realise how precious life is. I think when people have got too much, they have no worries, they have no struggles in life, their brain starts to deteriorate and they destroy themselves because they want more. They want to be taller. They want to have bigger boobs. They want to have bigger muscles. They go to the gym. It's never enough. They need a bigger car. They need more money. They need a bigger house. It's never enough. It's never enough because they need God. They need faith, nation, blood. That's what they need. And then they'll be happy.
Or they want to switch the genders, cut off their penis, and yeah.
This is a crazy thing. Look, we should be kind to these people. If somebody's so crazy that they don't know what sex they are and they don't know if they're a man or a woman, even if they've got a penis, they still don't know they're a man. Look, we should be taking these people for immediate medical help, mental evaluation, but not indulging them. Look, there was a guy who lived up our street. He'd been in the war and he was cuckoo with the bombs and all that. And at one point he thought he was Napoleon, and he used to walk about like Napoleon. Now, you take the guy, get him help. You don't say, "How are you, my liege or my emperor? How are you?" Of course you don't. You try and help the guy. You try and help him. With another guy who lived in another town, he actually thought for a while he was Adolf Hitler. But nobody went about saying, "Hi, Hitler." You take the guy to the doctors and you try and get him some help and some treatment. But we're allowing young kids in this country to take drugs that castrates them chemically, or we're taking them to hospital to literally have their genitalia mutilated. Oh my goodness! This is demonic. This is not just a mad thing. This is satanically empowered. This is satanic, brother. There's no doubt about it. It's got to be.
Yeah, but what do you say then when we see that Vatican organized LGBTQ parade and welcomed all the queers which came to the site, and also they had a cross in rainbow colors, and the Pope welcomed them.
Well, I'm glad I'm not a Roman Catholic, but this is the problem. I've got some very good Roman Catholic friends and some priests, but they're disgusted because they tell me the Curia, for example, the whole staff of the Vatican City, you basically cannot get a job in there unless you're a queer. This is exactly what Martin Luther found in the 1400s when Martin Luther went on pilgrimage to the Holy City, Rome. That's why he became Protestant. That's why it led to the Protestant Reformation. He went to Rome and he was so shocked with the debauchery of what he's seen there. It's still the same. About 70% of all the Catholic priests in the island of Ireland are homosexual. How can this be? Now, it could be the celibacy. And by the way, celibacy isn't canon law for the Roman Catholic Church. Priests used to marry. They did. So, and I know in the Orthodox Church, priests can marry.
They can.
Well, people say to me, Mario, there's sex scandals everywhere. Okay, there is. However, when was the last time you heard of a sex scandal in the Presbyterian Church? Huh? Or the Orthodox Church? You don't hear it so much. It does happen, of course. There's always bad people everywhere, but not really. But every single day, every hour of every day, in every corner of the world, we're hearing about Roman Catholic priests being paedophiles, and it's destroyed the Catholic Church in Ireland. So there is a problem there, and there's a problem right up to the hierarchy where they're all covering up for it, they're all defending it, and it's like a big gay network. And that is the problem with the Roman Catholic Church. It needs to be cleaned out from top to bottom. It needs to be cleaned out.
Yeah, but everything we talk about till now, we can find the main propagator of everything that is happening in Europe, plus United Kingdom, and it's Brussels. It's European Union. It's today. It's Ursula von der Leyen. It was Angela Merkel that brought all the Syrians and Pakistanis and Afghanistanis inside of Europe. So, what's the fate of EU? Do you think that EU will survive these revolutions? Because we see what's happening in France. We are seeing what's happening around the continent. People are rising up. Will EU survive?
I would love to see the day. I mean, I noticed on the news today in Nepal, they're pulling politicians out with their heels and stripping them naked and dragging them through the streets. I pray to God above that I live long enough to see the Brussels Parliament in Strasbourg being stormed by the people like the French Revolution, and these politicians being dragged out by their heels into the town square and by the neck. They are traitors. They have destroyed this continent. I've worked in the European Parliament. I worked there for 3 years inside the European Parliament. I was never as unhappy in all my life. I felt as if I was in the den of iniquity, in the belly of the beast. I was very depressed. I used to get into fights with people. I used to get into fights because all of these people in there are scumbags, and they're all there for the money, and they're all traitors, and they're all sellouts, and they're all godless, and they're all demonic. And Nick Griffin stopped taking me because I kept getting into fights with these advisors and these tin pot politicians. I remember once somebody from some like Slovakia or Slovenia or one of these countries, he said, you British couldn't survive without us. I said, what? I beg your pardon? We couldn't survive without you? I mean, very few of these fools could even be real countries if it wasn't being for the money being pumped in by the EU, not to help them, to utterly corrupt them. I'll give you an example. Not Ireland. Ireland was the most Catholic country in the world. They had no abortion, no gay rights, no gay marriage, nothing. In the last few years, they held these referendums, and the Irish kept rejecting it. But the EU kept having referendums until they got the result they wanted, and then that was it. No more referendums. In Northern Ireland here, we had abortion imposed on us. We didn't even get the chance to vote on it because we would have rejected it. But EU is a monstrous, wicked, evil thing. And I know how it works. And what people don't understand, Mario, is you've no power at all. You have 1 minute to speak per month. And the Parliament, you see them all sitting there, they have no voting power. I don't know if you understood that yourself. They take votes, but the decision for whatever they're voting on has already been taken in closed council with panels that nobody knows who they are. They're not allowed to know who's elected to them. So they've already made a decision. So when you see everybody in the European Parliament all putting their hands up to vote, that makes no difference. That's just window dressing. The decision has already been made. This is just something to test the temperature of the room. But those MPs have no power whatsoever to vote on anything. It's all done in committee by secret committees. So the whole thing is a fraud. But everybody's paid so much money. So even if good right-wing people get elected there, they sit quiet because if they complain, they lose their money. And the money's gigantic. An MEP from Britain can earn £100,000 a month in the European Parliament. So very few men will say, well, I don't care, I'm going to say what I think, and then give up that money. And this is the problem. It's a mechanism to take our best and our bravest and corrupt them so they become greedy and mute and fat. And it's very good at it. It does a good job of doing that.
So why does, for example, Serbian government or European Union, why do they want to drag us in an organization which is really, in its effect, it's going down, it's losing money, the population, migration, the bills are going up, they have social unrests everywhere. And now they say like Serbia should join European Union.
I see that. Now, I've got to be careful because I've always been treated very well by the Vučić government, to be fair. I mean, I was in Serbia, but no other country would let me in. So Vučić has been always quite good to me. So I've got to be careful, but I understand there's problems.
Okay, yeah.
But I think Vučić is much smarter than people think. I don't think he's any intentions. This is my opinion. I don't think Vučić has any intentions of joining the EU. But the EU are throwing billions at Serbia to try and convince them to join the EU. I think Vučić is hoping that by the time they really lose patience and say, look, you've had all these billions, now you need to join, that the EU, I think he's hoping that the EU will be in so much chaos and Hungary will have left and Poland will have left, that he can then avoid the actual difficult decision and say, well, look, the EU is no longer, so we don't have to be pressurised. I don't think Serbia and the rulers of Serbia have any intentions of joining the EU. I said this 5 years ago. I said, I think they're playing a very unusual game, shall we say, an unusual game. But I don't think they've any intentions, because I think Poland's going to leave and I think Hungary's going to leave. And Vučić is quite friendly with Orban and Poland. You are all friendly, that kind of circle. So I don't think that's a real possibility. Anyway, I hope it's not, because I think it'd be a very, very bad idea for Serbia to join that, because most of your young people will leave. And the population of Serbia is very bad at the moment. Your birth rate is through the floor. And if they join the EU and they can free movement, I would say 50, 60, maybe 70% of all your kids under the age of 25 will leave. And that's it. It's the end of Serbia. That's almost.
Yeah, and leave where? Maybe 20 years ago, people had some chance to go to European Union and maybe have a better life than in Serbia. But right now, things are changing. You know, there is maybe only 20% of people in Serbia who are for joining the European Union. So those are good numbers. But you mentioned in our talk how the British people reacted when there was a war in Northern Ireland, when there was bombings in Belfast, when there was bombing in London. They didn't wave flags. They didn't so much join and try to give the strength to the people of Northern Ireland. But I wanted to ask you, how do people around you, and how the Ulster people, and how the British people also from the United Kingdom, because I know that you are going there regularly, how do they look to the history, or for example, of Serbia and the wars? Because we already had wars. Now we already had wars against radical Islam in Balkans, and now the war has come to the gates of those who paid, who gave the strength to some terrorist groups in Kosovo and Metohija. Also, we have Tony Blair. I think that everybody knows who Tony Blair is.
The demon. He's a demon. And a very devout Catholic, seemingly. No, I mean, this is a very strange thing, and I don't say this to be flippant or disrespectful, but most people in Britain, even today, have never heard of Serbia. I know this sounds crazy. They've never heard of Serbia. I'll give you an example. When I was going to Serbia a few years ago, I was in the local garage, and I said, I'm going to Serbia tomorrow, so I'm just getting some provisions and so on and so forth. And this woman, not a girl, a woman, she said, oh my goodness, have you got all your warm clothes? Why do I need warm clothes? She says, well, it's freezing there, and there's polar bears. And I says, in Serbia? She said, I don't think so. I've been there before. There's no polar bears in Beograd. But she was thinking of Siberia. Anyway, I said, not Siberia, Serbia. And everybody in the garage, like men, people in their 30s, 40s, they're like, where's Serbia? They don't know it. Now, if you go older people in their 70s and 80s, they know Serbia. They know Serbia. And one of my relatives fought with the Serbs in the Second World War when they were doing that campaign down in Greece, the kind of commando thing. It didn't go very well for them. But some of my family were in the commandos down there and helping the partisans, and Tito ended up rising and all the rest of it. So that generation knows Serbia. Anybody between, 15 and 40, they've never heard of it. They don't know where it is. They've no idea where Serbia is. They've never heard of it. They've heard of Hungary, just Poland, yes, because there's so many Poles live here, but Serbia, because there's no Serbians here, because you're not in the EU, so nobody's ever met Serbs. Poles used to be exotic until all the Poles started coming here. They've all went home.
Yes, Reverend. Yes, Reverend. Excuse me. They maybe didn't hear about Serbia, but they heard and they saw thousands of Albanians swimming across La Manche to come to UK and maybe
That's when I point out to them. But they've no idea. And I remember when the Serbian War was on in the 1990s. I'd never heard of Serbia, didn't know where it was. I thought it was going on here. But I was in the paramilitary forces then, and we were fighting the IRA, and we got intelligence that these IRA guys were all disappearing to Croatia, and we thought, why are they going to Croatia? Where is Croatia? We didn't know where it was. And they were going to Croatia, so we did a bit of history. And I knew, because as a Protestant, I was taught at school and Sunday school of the Ustaše and the massacres of the Roman Catholics against the Serbian people. We were taught this because we're very Protestant in Scotland. So I knew where Croatia was. I said, I know where Croatia is. It's a Catholic country, so they must be going over there to fight with Catholics. So that means the Serbs must be Protestants. But I didn't know about Orthodox then. And we looked into it and we said, who are these Serbian people? We thought, these guys look okay. Plus your flag is the same colour as yours, red, white and blue. So some of our guys, some of our British guys, loyalists, were going over and helping the Serbs when all the IRA men were going over and fighting for the Croats. So that's how we knew about it. But most people had no idea. And when the NATO committed the war crimes in Serbia, bombing Belgrade and for so many nights non-stop and blowing up your television studios and that, most British people had no idea what was going on. Nowadays, because of football and people interact on the internet and whatnot, people understand a wee bit more, especially right-wing people know about Serbia. And nowadays people are deeply ashamed and outraged that our government would attack a white Christian country because they were defending themselves against Muslim invaders and Muslim aggressors and the Catholic aggressors as well. This is very shameful for us, but we didn't do it. Tony Blair did this in our name. But let me tell you something. He is a traitor, and he's the most hated man that Britain has ever produced since King Charles I, that we chopped his head off. So, we have a great debt that we owe the Serbian people. And that is why, me personally, I've done everything I could do and will do to help my Serbian brothers, because I think they were so appallingly treated by the British government. And at the end of the day, they represent me. So I want to make sure that Serbian people know that most British people, we support you. We don't support Tony Blair or Bill Clinton or NATO or the EU. We don't support these people. We support ethno-nationalists. And the best ethno-nationalists I've ever met are the Serbian people.
Yeah, that really means a lot when I hear it from you, and when the viewers hear from you, Reverend Jim. Please. Can you please, for some viewers that are watching from Serbia, can you just recap your connections with Serbia? I know that you helped a lot of people from Kosovo and Metohija. How did it start?
Well, it started originally. We had a headquarters in Budapest, and we're very friendly with the militias there. Some of the big militias, and the famous mayor. Laszlo Toroskai on the border. Ashatalom. He's a good friend of ours, and that's on the Serbian border. And they're all right-wing guys. You remember they were fighting with the government in the 90s and all that before Orban came in. And they was through our contacts in Hungary. They had some contacts in Serbia, but they said the Hungarians and the Serbs, they don't like each other. So I actually came up with this crazy idea. I said, I'm going to try and do my best to try and bring some of these brothers together, because why do these people fight with each other? And I understood it, because I fight with the Irish, and we've had to try and come to terms with that, and we have, and we're now all helping each other. We still don't like their religion, they don't like mine, but we're helping each other because we've got a common enemy. So I started going to Serbia just to meet some Serbian nationalists, which I did, and I said to them, would you ever consider coming to Budapest and meeting some Hungarian nationalists? And they were horrified by the idea. But anyway, after a couple of years, I managed to get some Hungarians to go down to Belgrade, and we met some Serbian nationalists, and then they came to Budapest, and we ended up making some very good friends. So we opened up an office in Beograd, and we started training some of the political activists there. Serbs don't need any training in fighting. They can fight well enough, better than most. But we started doing sort of political marketing training, databasing, how to organise proper political resistance, and also helping them against the huge amount of influence Soros has got now in Belgrade. I mean, Soros was paying for some of these horrible left-wing publications. And then you have an MP in Serbia called Marina Tepic.
Yeah.
I mean, she did a disgraceful thing. She stood up in the Serbian parliament with a picture of bulletproof vest that I had brought in. And she said, look at these items that Mr. Dowson's bringing into Serbia. Look at the length of the barrels, as if they were guns. And this was fraudulent. But the reason she was saying it was because all the Western newspapers then could use her quotes under parliamentary privilege. And so this implied that I was bringing guns in. Serbia doesn't need any more guns. You've got a lot there. But we did bring in satellite devices and satellite speaking devices because the EU has banned Serbia from accessing the Western GPS. You use the Russian system. So I think it's actually a crime for us to bring them in there, but I don't care. We went and got a big supply of them and brought them in and took them down to Kosovo for our brethren in, is it Mitrovica? So that's where it started, and then all of a sudden all hell broke loose. The BBC were involved, and oh my goodness, it was a big problem for me. But it didn't matter. But most of the people in Serbia were very supportive, and some of the newspapers in Serbia, some of them, and some of the magazines were very, very, very supportive. But you know, these left-wing magazines you have now in Belgrade and left-wing, they were obsessed. They were just printing story after story. Marina Tepic was shouting and bawling. I actually sued one of these papers. I can't remember the name of it. Is it Balkans Insight or something like that? I actually sued one of these papers because they told lies. And I went to the court in Belgrade, and I had a lawyer, a Serbian lawyer, and this is a good system you got there. So before the case starts, the judges ask you to come into a room. So the people who I'm against are there, I'm here, and they said, look, is there any way you can deal with this before going through all the legal systems? And I said, look, these are only kids. And I said, if you allow me to speak to them and they apologise, it's over. And the judge said, okay, all right. And I said to these kids, why are you sitting in this court? You were told to write this by your editor who's been paid by Soros. He's not here defending you. And if I win my case for 50,000 euros, you have to pay the money, not your boss. As your boss said he would pay it, and he said he won't pay it. I said, so there, you've learned a lesson. These communists will use you, they will abuse you, and then they will throw you to the dogs. I said, so if you give me your apology, we walk away. And they apologised. And I said, well, go home, learn, and get a better job. Do not work for these Western-financed communist papers because they don't care about Serbia. They don't care. I care more about Serbia than these people. So that was one of the things. But since then, it was all crazy, and I think the Kosovan government put an arrest warrant out for me and all this. But we also went to Diceni Monastery. We went to some other monasteries. We raised some money for the monasteries, and we also raised money for wells down in southern Kosovo. You'll know better than me. The Muslims are a big majority there, and they've cut off a lot of wee Christian villages and Christian farms. And what they do is they cut the water off. So if you've no water, you can't live. So we provided these pumps that some people send to Africa. So you only need to drill a small borehole, and you put this in, and it's hand powered, and it can draw water. So we supplied some of the Christian Serbian people down there with these kind of things, and radio equipment which works off the satellite, so they can keep in contact with their loved ones when the Muslim terrorists cut the wires and things like that. So we did that, and bulletproof vests and so on and so forth. And I don't make any apologies for that. And when the BBC confronted me on the television, I didn't. I think they thought I was going to try and deny it. Not only did I admit it, but I said I'd do it again, and I would keep doing it as long as God gave me strength. And as long as I don't get jailed or killed, I'll keep doing it. And I meant that, and I will keep doing it, because wherever Christians are being persecuted, especially my Serbian friends, I will do what I can do to help my brothers. And that's not being brave or being bold. That's being Christian, and that's being a brother. And you're my brother, so we help each other. That's the way it is.
God bless you for that, Reverend. No. Really, God bless. Because when we talk about Soros, and when we talk about the influence, you know, here, the patriots, and there is a lot of us, we are all fighting. You know, maybe we don't like Vučić, but we certainly don't like George Soros. We certainly don't like those who are influencing our society.
What about Marina Tepic?
Yeah, and Marinika Tepic and everybody from that Soros crew, woke crew, like they don't have any chance in the Serbian politics. They didn't have any, and they will not have any even more. So I'm up for it, but people are here trying to call for a law where we will have them and those working for Soros labeled as foreign agents. So
they should be. Yes, they should be. And they're doing. Do you know, it was quite funny when when I had the big carry on with Tepic, Marina Tepic, some of the young football hooligan, wild patriot guys in Belgrade decided to have some fun, not just there, but also in the area where she lives. And they were painting on the walls in Serbian Cyrillic writing that Marina Tepic is in love with me and angry because I rejected her. And they were spray painting her all over the city. And she was furious. She went to the police. Oh my goodness. And everybody was laughing. Everybody was just laughing.
Okay, please tell me when it comes to a holy place where all of us Christians are dragged to, because we know how meaningful Jerusalem is for us Christians. It seems like many Christians forgot that Jerusalem is a Christian city, and it was, it is, and it will be a part of our religion, the center of our religion. Did people forgot there? What do you preach to the people when it comes to Jerusalem? I lived there for 2 years.
Wow.
I met a lot of our brothers there from all around the world, but it seems that it's divided between two other religions, while Christians are making only 1 to 2% of the population there.
Well, the big problem I've got is the Americans, because the Americans are these Christian Zionists. They this conspiracy. They produced a Bible, Schofield Reference Bible, that made them anti-Christian Zionists. They believe in crazy stuff. That's like a cancer, and that's been spreading 100 years in America. I'll see you later, man. And so they actually believe that Jerusalem. They cannot. I mean, you got to. This is serious. A lot of American evangelicals, the majority of them believe they cannot get to heaven because Christ won't return until the temple is rebuilt in Jerusalem and the Jews are sacrificing the red heifers and everything again. I mean, this is hideous blasphemy, craziness. But that's what they believe. That's what they believe. But in our Templar church, which I'm sitting right next to right now, our whole roof in our Templar church is blue with a gold cross of Jerusalem on it. It's not as nice as St. Sava's church. I was there when they were putting the gold stuff in St. Sava in the capital. But, Jerusalem belongs to us. And people, crazy people, join the Templars and say, join the Templars because I support Israel. And I say, well, you don't know what the Templars stand for. We want 2 cities back, Jerusalem and Constantinople. We must get them back. Christendom cannot really be whole again until we take Jerusalem and Constantinople. Now, how do we do that? I don't know. But I believe one day, through God, we once again will have Jerusalem and Constantinople. I know it sounds crazy right now. It sounds stupid, wacko talk. But I believe that. I really believe one day that once again, the cross, the flag of the cross will fly over Jerusalem and Constantinople. Will I see it? Probably not. I don't know. But it will happen at some point in the future because the whole world is going to explode over the next 10, 15 years. The whole world is going to change. To me, this is like 1905, 10 years before the First War. This is what it feels like. This is the same vibe. The same stuff's happening. And soon, the whole of Europe is going to burn. And much worse than the 2 wars. Much worse because this time now we have the enemy in us. In the old days, the Germans were against the British. The Germans were against the French. We're all together. Now, we have half of our countries are fifth columnists. We have foreigners and even the white people. Half of them are communists or Zionists or Soros people. So the next configuration, which is going to start soon, will be like nothing humanity's ever lived through before. And I think it's exciting times to live, but very frightening. And this is another reason people need to get back to God, because what's coming will be like your worst nightmare multiplied by 100. Nobody has any idea what's coming, and it's going to be very bad, brother, very bad.
Yeah, we just came to the last question. You brought us, Reverend, to the last question. So, and it consists from your words. What would you, what would be your message to the Christians in Europe, especially now when you mentioned, and it's logical what you said, that something big is preparing, and it will be different, and it will probably look like war in Yugoslavia, like civil wars in other countries. But what's your
Correct.
message to
Correct.
the Christians? What to expect? How to prepare? What to do?
We have to do certain things. This is what the Templars specialise in. There's no point in selling people fake dreams, pipe dreams. Children and women can daydream. They have that luxury. Men have to be men. So when I tell people the truth, they say, oh, you're blackpilling me. Grow up. There's no such thing as being blackpilled. You have to grow up and understand what's coming. The best that Germany, the best that England and France can hope for is a balkanisation or an Ulsterisation. For example, we had a war here. Now we live in peace. But we live here in this village. This village is Protestant. 4 miles away, the village is Catholic. We don't talk to each other. We don't get near each other. We don't fight with each other anymore either. We just keep ourselves to ourselves. This is what will happen in Europe. If you're lucky, if your men stand up and fight and hold on to bits of your country, you will then, after 20 years of bloodshed, you will come to an understanding like you have in the Balkans, and people will split. So England won't be England anymore. France, Spain won't be the same, but it'll be balkanized. But our people will go on. So what can you do? Couple of things. Marry young. My son's sitting right over there behind the camera. He got married a few weeks ago. Just turned 19. His girlfriend, his wife, 18. They have a baby on the way now. My daughter is 30. She has 5 sons. All of those sons are in the junior militias. We have junior militias here. We train them very young. So marry young. Marry wisely. Marry a quiet girl. Make sure she's never been to university. If your wife has been to university, you walk away. Don't get near her. So marry a good, simple village girl. Have lots of children. Bring them up in the fear and admonition of the Lord, and make sure they're military trained. And get away from the cities. Go to the rural country areas and start building communities. Because we're going to have to fight. Whether you like it or not, you either fight or you die anyway. So you may as well die in fighting. So get to villages, make militias, make groups of men who can come together to defend what's theirs, and we may stand a chance of surviving. And then who knows what the other generations can do. Spain took 800 years to chase the Muslims out. It might be the same for us. But the first thing we have to do is survive. So marry young, marry well, breed, breed, breed. Wars are won by sons. If you don't have sons, there's no war. So we're dead. So breed and stick close to God. And that's as much as we can do. Anybody else that tells you can do this, or Tommy Robinson tells you can do this or this and have a march, and it'll be fine, they're all lying. They're all lying to you. War is coming. Terrible destruction is coming. Europe will never, ever look like Europe ever again. Deal with that as a grown up, as an adult, as a mature man, and then realise it's your responsibility to protect your wife, your sisters, your daughters, your grandmother. This is your job. You don't have the time or luxury for daydreaming. Be a man, stand up and start preparing, because war is coming.
Really, thank you very much for being my guest tonight.
Thank you for having me on, Mario, and thank all your viewers. God bless you.
You have heard Reverend Džim Doson. You can follow Knights Templar International on X and other social networks, but mostly on X is where you find the material that you need to know the truth. Also catch me up on X and YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram, but on X is where the things are happening right now. So I'm waiting for you there, and that's it. This is the end of this episode. I will see you soon in few days. God bless you all.